Hello and welcome to today's training entitled McKinney-Vento 101, Understanding and Implementing the Law in Nebraska. I'm your presenter, Christina Dukes with Pearl Strategies. Thanks for joining. This training is offered by the Nebraska Department of Education's McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Program in partnership with Pearl Strategies and SchoolHouse Connection. Pearl Strategies is an education consulting and technical assistance firm focused on the homeless education sector and cross-system partners. SchoolHouse Connection is a national nonprofit organization working to overcome homelessness through education via strategic advocacy and practical assistance. Let's get started. Here's where we're headed today. Today's training focuses on the essentials of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, including identifying students experiencing homelessness and connecting them to rights and supports under the Act. Our time together will give you a summary understanding of the Act, but you may wish to dive deeper to consider greater levels of nuance and strategies for implementation. So before closing out, we'll identify resources you can access to improve understanding and strengthen implementation. Feel free to pause the video at any time to process the information being shared or take a stretch break. Also, don't forget to download the training slides handout so you'll have access to the hyperlinks shared throughout. You also can download the slide deck to be customized for your use when providing your own training. Let's dive into the McKinney-Vento Act. The McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act was originally passed into law in 1987 and represented the first significant federal legislative response to homelessness. The Act authorizes assistance to people experiencing homelessness, including housing interventions and supportive services. In education circles, when referring to the McKinney-Vento Act, we're actually referring to Subtitle 7B of the Act, the Education subtitle, which was reauthorized by Title IX Part A of the Every Student Succeeds Act in 2015. It establishes the definition of homeless used by U.S. public schools and authorizes rights and services to address the unique educational barriers and challenges faced by students experiencing homelessness. To ensure its implementation, the Act requires state education departments to designate a state coordinator for homeless education who serves as the key homeless education contact at the department and oversees the Act's implementation in districts throughout the state. Likewise, school districts must designate a local homeless education liaison to serve as the key homeless education contact in the district and oversee the Act's implementation in schools throughout the district. We'll look at the role of the local liaison in more detail momentarily. Early in the text of the McKinney-Vento Act, we find what might be considered the Act's elevator pitch, or a quick summary of what it's about. It reads, state education departments and school districts must review and revise laws, regulations, practices, or policies that may act as a barrier to the identification of, or the enrollment, attendance, or success in school of children and youth experiencing homelessness. The McKinney-Vento Act's emphasis on removing barriers is needed because children and youth experiencing homelessness face unique challenges related to educational access and success. Due to homelessness, students may be unable to meet school enrollment requirements, move around and change schools a lot, resulting in educational disruption and discontinuity. Be hungry, tired, and anxious, making it difficult to focus on school. Not have school supplies or a quiet place to study, making it difficult to complete homework. Not have access to reliable transportation, making it difficult to get to and from school. Not have a parent or guardian to help them in the case of students experiencing homelessness on their own. Because of these challenges, students experiencing homelessness are more likely than their house peers to be chronically absent from school, missing important instructional time, get lower grades, placing learning and academic advancement at risk, have special education needs, score poorly on assessment tests, or even drop out of school. Despite the barriers students experiencing homelessness may face, research demonstrates the key role education can play in breaking cycles of homelessness and poverty. In fact, research by Chapin Hall at the University of Chicago shows that lack of a high school credential is the single largest factor placing youth at risk of homelessness. Other subpopulations of youth at a higher risk for homelessness include low income, Black or African American, unmarried parenting, Hispanic, non-white, and LGBT youth. Further, Chapin Hall identified a bidirectional relationship between housing and education, wherein a student who is stably housed is more likely to advance educationally and, as a result, be able to secure living wage employment that provides access to the income and safety nets needed to make a sustainable exit from homelessness. This bidirectional relationship between housing and education occurs against a backdrop of common underlying risk factors, such as mental health difficulties, racism, trauma, poverty, family conflict, and social isolation that, when addressed, can help prevent both homelessness and school dropout. Schools and educators have the ability to make a major difference in the lives of students experiencing homelessness by engaging with them in a trauma-informed and supportive manner and supporting their educational access and success. As mentioned, the McKinney-Vento Act requires school districts to designate someone to serve as the local homeless education liaison. The liaison plays a key role in ensuring the act is implemented well in schools throughout the district. The act includes a job description of sorts for the local liaison in the form of 10 duties outlined in the law and summarized on the screen. Liaisons must ensure that students experiencing homelessness are identified, enrolled in, and participating fully in school. Connect families experiencing homelessness to early childhood services like Head Start, early intervention, and district preschool programs. Refer students and families experiencing homelessness to other needed services, including housing, health, dental, mental health, and substance abuse services. Support the informed engagement of parents in the education of their children, including by informing them about transportation and other available services. Disseminate public notice of the educational rights of McKinney-Vento students in locations such as schools, shelters, libraries, and soup kitchens. Provide professional development to school personnel about the needs and rights of McKinney-Vento students. And support unaccompanied homeless youth in enrolling in and receiving transportation to school and applying for federal financial aid on the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA. While the local liaison oversees McKinney-Vento implementation within the district, the Act's full and effective implementation depends on engagement and support from other school and district staff, including leadership, specialized instructional support personnel, and classroom teachers. When we refer to students experiencing homelessness, what do we mean? The McKinney-Vento Act defines homelessness as a child or youth who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, including sharing the housing of other persons due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or a similar reason. This is commonly referred to as doubling up. Living in motels, hotels, trailer parks, or camping grounds due to the lack of alternative adequate accommodations. Living in emergency or transitional shelters or abandoned in hospitals. Living in a public or private place not designed for or ordinarily used as a regular sleeping accommodation. Living in cars, parks, public spaces, abandoned buildings, substandard housing, bus or train stations, or similar settings, and migratory children living in the above described circumstances. Unaccompanied youth also are eligible for McKinney-Vento rights and services. The McKinney-Vento Act defines unaccompanied youth as a homeless child or youth not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian. Think of lacking a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence as the definition's guiding phrase, setting the general standard when considering whether a student's living arrangement might meet the definition of homeless. The definition then continues with including and lists living arrangements that would be considered homeless because they're not fixed, regular, and adequate. Because it is difficult for federal statute to anticipate every possible living arrangement that could be considered homeless, there may be other living arrangements that would be considered homeless because they're not fixed, regular, and adequate, but that are not listed specifically in the definition. In a state like Nebraska, comprised of both rural and non-rural areas, it's important to note that homelessness is not just an urban issue. In fact, Chapin Hall found that rates of youth homelessness, both for minors and young adults, are statistically identical in rural and non-rural areas. So while the number of people experiencing homelessness may be higher in more densely populated urban centers, the rate of homelessness in rural areas matches that of larger cities. Here are a few things to keep in mind when determining McKinney-Vento eligibility. Remember that the local liaison has the authority and responsibility to make determinations of McKinney-Vento eligibility, although this often is done in collaboration with trained school and community partners. Some districts opt to appoint school-based homeless education points of contact to serve as the liaison's eyes and ears in each school. Keep in mind that eligibility determinations should be made on a case-by-case basis, considering the unique circumstances of each student and their living arrangement. Some determinations, such as a student staying in a shelter, may be simple. Other determinations, such as a student staying in shared housing, may be more nuanced. For instance, did the shared housing come about due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or a similar reason, as mentioned in the McKinney-Vento definition? On a related note, remember to pay close attention to the definition's legislative wording, since sometimes the definition itself provides helpful details to inform eligibility determinations. For more information, download the National Center for Homeless Education's Determining Eligibility Brief, which breaks down the McKinney-Vento definition of homeless phrase by phrase and provides helpful clarifying questions to tease out nuances. Identifying students experiencing homelessness is the first step to ensure they are provided with McKinney-Vento rights and services. One of the key educational rights of McKinney-Vento students is immediate school enrollment. Students experiencing homelessness must be enrolled in school immediately, even if lacking paperwork normally required for enrollment. This could include a birth certificate, proof of residence, previous school records, and immunization or other health records. McKinney-Vento students also must be enrolled even if a parent or legal guardian is not present, or if the student can't provide proof of guardianship. This is especially relevant for unaccompanied homeless youth who are experiencing homelessness on their own and not under the care of a parent or guardian. The McKinney-Vento Act defines enrollment as attending classes and participating fully in school activities. Another key educational right is school selection. The McKinney-Vento Act guarantees students experiencing homelessness the right to attend either the school of origin or the local school. The school of origin is defined as the school a child or youth attended when permanently housed, or the school in which the child or youth was last enrolled. Often, the two parts of the definition will indicate the same school, although it is possible that a McKinney-Vento student could have two schools of origin if they have experienced frequent residential or school mobility. Having the ability to continue attending the school of origin, even if no longer living in the school's attendance zone, is critical for providing school stability and continuity for McKinney-Vento students while their lives outside of school may be full of uncertainty and stress. The local attendance area school is defined as any public school that non-homeless students who live in the attendance area in which the child or youth is actually living are eligible to attend. This is often the neighborhood school or the school zoned for where the student is staying, but this could include other schools beyond the zone school in districts with open enrollment policies. Students attending their school of origin must be provided with transportation to and from school if requested by a parent or guardian, or if requested by the local liaison on behalf of an unaccompanied youth. So if McKinney-Vento students can select either the school of origin or the local school, what guides the selection process? The McKinney-Vento Act places the child's or youth's best interest at the forefront. In fact, school districts must presume that keeping a student in the school of origin is in the student's best interest unless this is contrary to the request of the parent, guardian, or unaccompanied youth. Districts also must consider student-centered factors, including the impact of mobility on achievement, education, health, and safety, when making determinations of best interest, while prioritizing the school requested by the parent, guardian, or unaccompanied youth. In most cases, parents or youth and school districts will agree on which school is in the student's best interest to attend, whether the school of origin or the local school. But in cases where, after conducting a best interest determination, the district determines it is not in the student's best interest to attend the school requested by the parent, guardian, or unaccompanied youth, the district must follow the McKinney-Vento Act's provisions related to dispute resolution. When consensus on best interest can't be reached, the district must provide the parent, guardian, or youth with a written explanation of the reasons for its determination in a manner and form understandable to the parent, guardian, or youth, including information regarding the right to appeal. Should a parent, guardian, or youth wish to appeal the district's decision, the district must provide clear instructions on how to initiate a dispute and must enroll the student in the requested school pending the final resolution of the dispute, including all available appeals. Disputes usually initiate at the district level, but may be elevated to the state for final resolution when needed. If you'll remember, at the beginning of the training, I shared the McKinney-Vento Act's elevator speech, which outlines the responsibility of state education departments and school districts to review and revise laws, regulations, practices, or policies that may act as a barrier to the education of students experiencing homelessness. The removal of barriers is a broad, ongoing requirement, but the Act also references specific areas where barriers must be addressed. For instance, the Act requires districts to address barriers related to outstanding fees or fines or absences. Districts also must ensure that McKinney-Vento students receive appropriate full or partial credit for coursework satisfactorily completed at a prior school. And districts must address barriers that may keep students experiencing homelessness from accessing academic and extracurricular activities, including magnet school, summer school, career and technical education, advanced placement, online learning, and charter school programs. The law doesn't specify exactly how these barriers must be addressed, only that they must be removed, giving districts discretion to address these and other barriers in the way that makes the most sense in the local context, and is in the best interest of students. Lastly, the McKinney-Vento Act requires that specific supports be provided to help pave the way to post-secondary education pathways for McKinney-Vento students. Specifically, school counselors must assist students experiencing homelessness with college preparation and readiness. And local liaisons must inform unaccompanied youth of their independent student status on the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, and assist with documentation of this status. The independent student designation allows unaccompanied youth to apply for federal financial aid without a parent's signature or parent financial information on the FAFSA, and establishes that the student's aid package will be calculated solely on their own income and assets and not those of their parents. This ensures that unaccompanied youth who may be estranged from their parents and won't receive any family contribution towards their school or living expenses can still access higher education, which can help the student gain the skills and credentials needed to secure living wage employment and make a lasting exit from homelessness. This has been a brief overview of key tenets of the education subtitle of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, but there is certainly more to explore. To this end, consider these options for more information. Visit the website of the Nebraska Department of Education's Homeless Education Program. Visit the website of SchoolHouse Connection, a national organization leading advocacy on behalf of and the provision of practical assistance to the homeless education field. Visit the website of the National Center for Homeless Education, or NCHE, the U.S. Department of Education's Federal Homeless Education Technical Assistance Center. Or download the U.S. Department of Education's non-regulatory guidance for the Federal Education for Homeless Children and Youth program. Program guidance helps fill in details about McKinney-Vento implementation that may not be explicitly stated in statute. Well, that's it. You did it. You completed the McKinney-Vento 101 training. Hopefully the information shared today will be helpful to you in your work. Also, feel free to reach out to the Nebraska Department of Education, Pearl Strategies, or SchoolHouse Connection should you have questions about content covered in today's training. Thanks for joining.